How's it going, everybody? Tommy Wiseau here. How's it going, everybody? Knockoff Tommy Wiseau here. How's it going, everybody? Tommy Wiseau from the room here. How's it going, everybody? JK Design here. How's it going? Will Hirsch peed on my chair in the basement here. Today we're taking a look at the Trinidad Scorpion from Ceroni Knives. I actually have it in its case right here. Before we go into the actual review, I do want to make a pretty big announcement, which is that I officially have merchandise. If you guys want to purchase some of my merch, which is not just my YouTube handle on a t-shirt, you can go check out my Instagram. The handle will be on the screen right here. There is a post currently right now stating all the sizes, the pricing and stuff like that, and showcasing what the designs look like. I personally like the designs, not just because they're my designs, but because I actually wear them all the time out in public, and because they're like, you know, it's not just like a YouTube handle on a t-shirt, which is really nice. I've been trying to do like some cool new things, and every so often I'll get some like inspiration and put it onto a t-shirt. So if you want any of those t-shirts, information for them will be on my Instagram post. So go check it out if you want some merch. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on to what this video is actually about, which is the special review of the last and final installment of the special Ceroni saga, which is what I like to call it. It's not really a saga, it's just 3 videos back to back. I was supposed to review something else in between, but it is off being tuned because it is that bad of tolerances. Anyways, that's another video, but today we're checking out the Trinidad Scorpion, which is the last and final installment of the Ceroni saga, as I mentioned before. I'm actually going to show you guys what this is encased with. Now, this might not actually be the actual packaging, but since it is a premium knife, I wanted to show you guys. So this is a nice little leather pouch. As you can see, it's got some really nice leather kind of pouch thing going on here. It's kind of in the traditional taco style shape that you'd see from like JK, Joseph M. Hansen, all of those kind of like $1,000 plus knives. But it's got a Ceroni Knives logo that's in like some engraved metal. It looks pretty cool. It just looks like it's been glued on there, so it's not like stitched in there or anything, but it's still pretty cool to note. It's got a little taco case. Next thing we want to do is actually open it up, because there's actually another little thing in here. We have a certificate of authentication. Now, it's in like this weird sleeve because it's kind of foggy, so you can't really see it, but here it is, the certificate of authentication, and we got a little big Ceroni Knives logo on the back here. It looks pretty cool, but it's a certificate of authentication to let you know that this is in fact a real and authentic Ceroni Knives experience. So this is the Trinidad Scorpion. It is a live blade knife from Ceroni Knives. It is using the RWL34 steel that we've seen on all 3 of these Ceroni products. This is using 6AL4V titanium for the channel constructed handles that have a lot of holes in them. One thing that you might notice about the blade here is that there's these little like holes and stuff. Those are actually designed to have inlays in them. There are a lot of cool creative inlays that he's done with this. There's been like some cool like glowy inlays, carbon fiber inlays. There is a small little inlay in the pin notch here that is carbon fiber. There are a lot of little details about this knife that I want to cover, starting off with the different shades on the blade. Now, you might notice up near the tip, it is a lot shinier. This is partially because the flats are actually polished through this knife, but you also notice that on the bevel, it has like a matte finish. I think that's really cool, and I kind of like that. I feel like there should be a normalization of like dual finishes on blades, especially when it comes to like, you know, modding and like, you know, from the factory stuff. This is pretty cool to see, and I really do like that kind of detail. Next thing I want to talk about is the overall blade shape, which is just cool as fuck. I like this blade shape. It looks really, really cool. It is a Tanto style blade shape, but it has the Trinidad Scorpion style Tanto blade shape. And I just love how this thing looks. It just looks really, really cool. And there's a lot of cool details. The swedges, all the different types of bevels and stuff. And the fact that the swedge literally almost feels like another edge is really, really cool. I bet if you suggested this, or like if you were getting your own custom version, you really could put another edge on here where the swedge is. So for those of you who are looking for that kind of experience, it's pretty cool. One thing I was kind of weird about was this like whole like weird situation right here. This is kind of like a little big like area for a choil. Most of the time on a regular Balisong, the choil is like somewhere down here, basically where the pins contact. But I think because it is pinsless, and because the area where the handles actually contact is like in the middle of this area, they had to move the choil like really far up. But because of that, you do get like a lot of room for error. So like if you were to like have your finger here and accidentally like push the blade somewhere, you're not going to get chopped or anything like that. This also helps with like scissors or like giraffes and stuff like that, because you got a whole lot of good room. This especially helped when I was trying to practice double giraffes. For those of you who didn't see the post on my Instagram, it's also up there. Again, here's the handle on the screen. This kind of like helped me gain a bit of confidence doing it on a live blade, because before this knife I have not done any kind of double giraffe on a live blade. So I'm kind of attached to this specifically because of that, and I kind of like it because of that, but we'll get to my opinionated section in a minute. But besides that, there's really nothing else to go on about this blade besides the fact that it is pinsless and it has the same pin notch as the other trainers do, but the only thing that's different is the inlay. That's pretty much it. Besides that though, everything is chamfered as it should be, and overall the quality of the blade is just good. It's just top notch, I think. Really cool, and there's definitely a lot of potential for like really cool finishes and stuff, and I'm just always so amazed at what he can do when it comes to this knife. So definitely good so far. Next thing we should talk about is the bushing situation, because the bushing situation has been like different each knife. I said in the last video that the bushing situation was good and probably the best it could be out of the 3 knives. And the smoothness, in my opinion, was the best out of the 3 knives. But one thing I like about this knife is something I'm going to mention in a minute. But this, in my opinion, is kind of a weird one. As I said before, the certain knives feel like the hardware isn't the right size, and this is the case for that one too. The safe handles hardware can literally like slide in and out, and I'm not too sure why that is a thing. Also, it doesn't seat correctly inside there because it is sliding, and whenever you put oil in there, underneath the hardware, you can see in some of the close-up shots there's like a bit of like oil residue. That's because whenever you put oil in this thing, it doesn't stay inside the knife. It doesn't stay retained in between the washer and the pivot setup. It literally just drains out of this little socket in the handle here, which is really annoying, because when you're flipping and you just apply oil and you start flipping again, you get oil all over your hands. So honestly, the ideal situation for this knife is like when you first get it, maybe apply like a little bit of oil, but then like never fucking again, because it just drains straight out into the handles. And that's kind of disappointing because the titanium tracker didn't do that. So I'm not too sure what this one's about. But anyways, moving on down, the handles are also channel titanium, just like the titanium tracker. This one doesn't have the corner milling on it, so it's not as like, cool looking. This does have a pretty interesting blue ano. This one is kind of old and has been flipped, so certain areas have kind of faded, but it does kind of match the contrast of the blue hardware that's in there. One thing I don't necessarily like about the handles is, again, the squareness on the ends of the handles here. It's kind of square and it's a little sharp. It's just kind of a QC thing. This also goes for the speed channel and the inside channel on the handles as well. It's still a bit too rough to, not gloss over. I feel like the QC for this knife is definitely a lot weirder than it is. It feels like this knife was made around the same time as Integrales we've taken a look at, but at the same time, it's still based like on the same platform as the titanium tracker, and he's made a bunch of these since then. So I feel like this is kind of a weird thing to gloss over even when paying base price back then, which is like stupid crazy considering how like even this, which is kind of like a bare bones non-customized version and doesn't have a whole lot going on with it, is still really expensive, and these can range anywhere from like $1,200 to $1,400. And honestly, for the QC to be like this at that price point, it's kind of unacceptable, because at that price point there should be like the most little things be done on this one, and that's kind of disappointing. In the last video, someone commented how the market for Balisongs nowadays is just stupidly overpriced, and that clearly is kind of showing in this, because this knife is so expensive, and for some reason people who buy this kind of just have like that honeymoon effect and just let things like this slide. It's not a huge deal, and it's honestly not as rough as the Integrales 2, but it still is sharp and like somewhat noticeable, and it's kind of one of the first things I've thought of when like flipping this thing for the first time, and that's kind of disappointing, especially at its price point. But what's not disappointing in my opinion is the performance that it offers. Now, even though it doesn't have the correct size hardware and the bushings could probably use a good tune, it still doesn't have any tap or play, like minimal amount of play. I imagine it could use like a good tune-up and probably be really good, but I tried to tighten down the hardware as much as I can, which is still how I kind of came to notice that the hardware isn't the right size for it, because it still has like a bunch of like movement in the hardware even when it's cranked fully down, and it does have good balance and good swing, And the smoothness is especially good on this one. I feel like the smoothness is probably the best out of the three. Now, as far as balance goes, I said that the titanium tracker was the best of the three, in my opinion, because it's more gravitated towards my liking of balance, and it's definitely more handle focused. This one, in my opinion, is probably the best for flipping. I don't know what it is, but I'm just kind of like hooked into just like fidgeting with this one. I just can't like stop flipping it and just like taking it out of the case and just fidgeting with it. And whenever I just don't go a while without flipping something, I'll just like take this out for a second and just like fidget with it and put it back. It has a really big, massive fidget factor. And honestly, that's one of the biggest things I like about this, because whenever something has a huge fidget factor in a Balisong, it's always been in a Balisong that I really have liked. The Solo had that fidget factor. The Gigas had that fidget factor. And this one definitely has that feeling, which is something that I don't think a lot of people talk about, is that kind of fidget feeling. This can definitely do and pull off some really incredible tricks with ease. And that's one of the reasons why I think this is a good knife per se, even though it doesn't have great quality QC. The design for the handles isn't exactly a new and like inspiring looking thing. It just does have good performance that I kind of would come to expect at this price point. It is, as far as balance goes, blade bias. Someone in the reel I posted on YouTube of this knife stated that it looks blade biased, and you are correct. However, it kind of reminds me of the Medusa in the fact that the blade bias is very much not wanting to make you insane. In my opinion, out of the three Ceroni knives that I reviewed, this is probably the best performance flipper. However, the problem with it that I have is that it's just so damn expensive. If you manage to find somewhat of a base model like this one and you find it for a good price secondhand, I would recommend you buy it. But honestly, if you're looking for similar performance, just go out and buy a Medusa, because that's literally pretty much the same performance. It's just going to be a bit heavier and a bit bigger, and the handles are going to be a little bit thinner, but the balance is pretty much the exact same, at least in my opinion. So that's all I have to say about the Trinidad Scorpion. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you again to Pyro Flipper for letting me try this knife and letting me try out all three of those Ceroni knives. I'm very appreciative. Stick around for more reviews coming soon. There are a lot more pass rounds coming. We have an Omen from Wolf Designs coming. That's going to be pretty exciting, because I actually was interested in buying one of those first, so I'm pretty intrigued to see how that thing comes out. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to tune in for more videos, and check out the merch if you want to buy some. Again, on my Instagram handle is going to be on the screen again. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out.